A positive optimist hopes for a better future as a way to motivate people to strive for it. A negative optimist also hopes for a better future, but focuses on what's keeping us from achieving it. Criminologists are negative optimists, or what I would call neg-optimists. Hoping to make society safer, they focus on criminal behavior. As are oncologists, hoping for their patients' longevity, they study cancers that keep their patients from achieving it. On practical matters like crime and cancer, neg-optimism prevails. In politics, religion, and spirituality, it's a mix, with plenty of positive optimists or pos-optimists promoting their vision of the better world. They keep their eyes on the prize, sometimes a utopian vision of an ideal world, heaven hereafter, some communist or MAGA utopia. Sometimes the ideal is nostalgic, making America great again, or a great returning to how we were meant to live in harmony. And sometimes it's a story of inevitable progress towards some ideal. To pos-optimists, neg-optimists just seem like pessimists. Don't be negative. Don't fight what's bad. Focus on what's good. Give people a vision of a better future. Focusing on what doesn't work just discourages people. Positive optimism or pos-optimism is carrots with no sticks. Focusing on what doesn't work just discourages people, especially when it involves what isn't working about their behavior. You can motivate more people with a positive vision that they can identify with. At the extreme, it becomes the argument that it's immoral to criticize people. Shame on anyone who judges. You'll only turn people off if you suggest that they're doing something that could be an impediment to progress. You catch more flies with honey than vinegar. Don't scare people about climate change. Instead, inspire people with a vision of a low-carbon future. To the political or religious pos-optimists, neg-optimists aren't just pessimists. They're immoral, cynical, nihilist narcissists. They're just congratulating themselves on their defeatist superiority, pretending they're wise enough to realize that the situation is hopeless. It's a cheap thrill. You don't have to do anything about the problems. Of course, there are people like that. People find affirmation in whatever beliefs they claim. Some will feel proud of their cynical pessimism. But that's not how neg-optimists see it. They're optimistic, but they're trying to be realistic about what it will take to make progress. You're not going to call a seismologist a pessimist for focusing on the risk of earthquakes. Pos-optimist is a double positive plus optimist. Neg-optimist is a negative and a positive, negative plus optimist. Ask any oncologist. It takes more work to stay positive when you're dealing with life's negatives. You have to have a way to deal with the disappointments without getting cynical. One way is to be realistic about what you're up against. You don't see oncologists or criminologists or seismologists fretting and fuming about the existence of cancer and crime and earthquakes. They're post-angst and post-outrage. They don't rail against reality or demand to talk to the universe's manager. Instead, they adopt an ironic attitude, which is not to be confused with a cynical one. An ironic attitude recognizes that no matter how hard you try, there will be ironic situations, defined as good bets going bad and bad bets going good. They're trying to make things better. It's iffy guesswork. Irony can sound like it's only about taking things lightly, but that's not what it's about. It recognizes the inescapable tragicomic nature of life. Life is both dire and slapstick. Slipping on a banana peel can kill you. I suggest a better term would be dirony. Dire irony. Not so for pos-optimists. We shall overcome. Visualize world peace. Hope is the ultimate virtue. With hope, there's nothing you can't do. Keep your eyes on the prize and we can show you the path to it. And they're right. You do catch more flies with honey than vinegar. The appeal of pos-optimists far outweighs the appeal of neg-optimism. The appeal might shift in the coming years if problems continue to worsen. If sea levels rise and millions are dying, it would be harder to stay pos-optimistic. Maybe the appeal will shift to cynical nihilism or a different kind of post-optimism, also extremely popular. This world is a mess, but the world isn't the point. It's a test for getting into a utopia in the afterlife. Hope springs eternal. People are great at staying positive, especially about themselves. After all, generic hope sounds like a virtue, but notice that the worst people in history were hopeful. They hoped that they would prevail with their utopian vision, however crazy and world-damaging. You have to be careful where you point that word hope. Hope for what? Mostly hope that things will work out the way we want. That's some of the appeal of post-optimism. Positive about your positive vision, you can virtue signal that you're on the side of good. It's motivating, but toward what? Mostly toward grandstanding about one's virtue. The worst movements in world history were all post-optimistic in their public presentation. They were often populated by people who were also cynical nihilists in private. They got the benefit of grandstanding about their virtue in public, while in private laughing about the suckers who believe in virtue. A neg-optimist recognizes the value of both carrots and sticks. They alternate between pos-optimistic, fake it till you make it, and the neg-optimistic, face it till you make it. A forensic psychologist I know will tell a sex offender that he can change and then testify in court that he's unlikely to change. Carrots and sticks. Careful guesswork about what's changeable and what isn't, but still iffy guesswork because they don't claim to have a surefire formula. Here's a debate between a positive and a negative optimist. It's modeled after some recent conversations I've had. Notice that the pos-optimist is ultimately optimistic about their vision. In other words, self-affirming, like the cynic. If you feel like you've solved reality, either way, you'll enjoy a bucket load of self-affirmation.
What we're doing works.
I agree.
We just have to do it more. Get more people doing it.
I don't agree.
What do you mean you don't agree?
I mean, it's not enough.
That's what I said. We need to do it more and get more people to do it.
I mean that by themselves, the approaches we're employing are not enough. We need other, even opposite strategies.
What do you mean opposite?
We're doing a lot of reaching across the aisle, trying to cooperate, trying to connect, what you call bridging. I think we also have to find new, better ways to fight.
Oh, so you think fighting solves everything?
No, I think we need it in our repertoire because bridging isn't enough. We need to fight smarter.
I think you've got that exactly backwards. I think we do way too much fighting and not enough bridging.
We seem to disagree about that.
Fighting never solves anything.
I say bridging solves a lot, just not enough. Sometimes we need to be able to fight and more effectively than we are currently.
When has fighting solved anything? All it ever does is cause more conflict.
Right, we disagree. You think bridging is enough. I think fighting to set hard boundaries sometimes solves things.
Fighting only causes escalation.
Not always.
I don't like fighting.
Me neither, but I look at 3.6 billion years of natural history and see that cooperation and competition have both been part of life throughout. Competition including plenty of fighting. I don't assume we humans can simply lobotomize out the fighting. It's not like humans can just transcend our animal nature, which is why we have to figure out how to both bridge and fight better.
With the weapons we've got now, fighting will get us all killed. Those who live by the sword die by the sword. And now we have nukes.
Okay, but what are we going to do about the sword fighters and nuclear nations? Do you think that bridging is going to work with all of them?
I'm a proud pacifist.
I should clarify. By fighting, I mean better verbal combat. I see it as a way to prevent fighting, a way to not escalate into physical violence.
You're dead wrong about that. Verbal combat is unkind, immoral, and counterproductive. It always leads to escalation. I'm opposed to all conflict.
Do you hear the irony in opposing conflict?
We have to build rapport with people or they won't listen.
Some people won't listen no matter how much rapport you build.
You catch more flies with honey than vinegar.
You catch more still with poop, and anyway, we're not flies.
It's simple. If we want more harmony, we have to work for more harmony. If we want more connection, we have to work to connect people. Be gentle and people will be gentle back. Trust people and they'll trust you back.
Always?
Why not?
Because obviously sometimes the more gentle or trusting you are, the more they'll take advantage of you.
Not always.
I said sometimes. I didn't say always.
I just think kindness is better. I'm trying to find new ways to make it work better and get more people to be more gentle and trusting.
But I think I still hear you saying that you think that fighting never works.
You misheard me. Of course fighting is necessary sometimes. I never said it wasn't.
Okay.
What I said was that we just need more bridging, more caring, more trusting, more kindness.
My point is this. I don't think we're keeping up. I think we've become too predictable and the dangerous mass movements are evolving. Their tactics are evolving faster than ours. They're overrunning us. So it's not just a question of bridging versus fighting. I think desperate times call for innovation. I'm eager to rethink things because I don't bet we're going to get a groundswell or major transformation whereby people will come to their senses, face reality, and be kind to each other. Some will, but not enough.
I'm more optimistic.
I'm optimistic too, but I think there must be a better way to strive for a better future. I could be wrong, but I'm looking for one.
But you're talking about us not keeping up. That sounds pessimistic.
I think optimistic and pessimistic are somewhat vague.
I don't.
Let me explain why. They're subjective and relative. If you think some good outcome is more likely than I do, then you're relatively and subjectively more optimistic. Also, optimistic and pessimistic about what?
Obviously about global harmony. I have hope. You don't.
You're right. I think global harmony is getting harder to achieve than you do. For me, hope that we'll achieve it is probably lower than it is for you. About that goal, I am relatively more pessimistic.
I just don't think we can give up hope. I think we have to look on the bright side.
Yes, hope is important, but I don't want to be pessimistic.
Pessimistic?
Like playing possum about reality.
You think I don't pay attention to reality? I lose sleep every night about the crises we face.
Okay, then. You look on the bright side and you lose sleep over the crises.
Sounds like you're accusing me of being inconsistent.
I am, but I don't single you out. I think inconsistency is the default for humans. We want what we want. A person often wants opposite things. It's much easier to gloss over our ambivalences and inconsistencies than to wrestle with them. We're born inconsistent, with a bunch of unreconciled impulses. So yeah, I wouldn't put it past you, me, or anyone to have unreconciled priorities that we'd rather rationalize away than face.
Your view of human nature is insulting, pessimistic, and cynical.
We disagree about that. I find it compassionate for the human condition.
If you think I'm inconsistent, you misheard me. I'm hopeful.
I think it's useful to wonder what specifically people are hoping for. You know, our opponents are hopeful too. The people we're fighting against are hoping to win.
You call them hopeful? Hopeful for what?
I think what a lot of people are really hoping for is that they're already perfectly consistent, that they've already found the right and righteous way to be in the world, and that they have the answers, the complete formula, that they don't have to grub around for new solutions, reprioritize, or change their minds about anything. People are hopeful that they've already got the total package and don't have to struggle with their own inconsistencies.
If you heard that from me, you misunderstood me.
We disagree about that.
There you are again, accusing me of inconsistency. Maybe you're just bullying me to try to make me feel dumb.
Maybe, and you're certainly entitled to interpret what I'm doing that way.
I should be free to think what I think.
That's what I just said.
Then why don't you agree with me?
Because I'm free to think what I think too, and here's what I think. I think the freedom our rivals demand is freedom from doubt, freedom from self-doubt, freedom from ever having to rethink anything. And it's not just them. I think that hope shows up in all sorts of movements, including ours. We hope for and claim that we're already on the express train to harmony shaped the way we want it. If only our opponents would just wake up, give up, transcend conflict, and embrace our formula.
Yes, you do seem to think you have the formula. You seem to want me to learn more from you than you want to learn from me.
What would you say you learned from me in this conversation? Might you do anything differently because we talked?
I've learned that what I'm doing works. I just have to do it more. Just get more people doing it.
That's where we started.